The Romans did many things throughout their long reign over the Mediterranean, or known as the known world during that time, and none of that would have been possible if it were not for their army, which brought in lots of fame, glory, and resources for the empire, which makes it so great today. This is the Roman army, and I am here, your host, Liam Wayne. Only men could be in the Roman army, no women. Every Roman soldier was a Roman citizen. He had to be at least 20 years old. He was not supposed to get married while he was a soldier. Most soldiers in the Roman Empire came from countries outside of Italy. Soldiers had to stay in the army for at least 25 years, then they could retire with a pension or a gift of land to farm. Old soldiers often settled down to old age together in a military town or colonia. There were about 30 legions in the Roman army. Each legion had between 4,000 and 6,000 soldiers, called legionaries. Each cohort was made up of 6 troops of about 80 legionaries, called centuries. Each century was led by a centurion, and the centurion held order within the century. The officer commanding the whole legion was called a legate. Legionaries were the best Roman soldiers and the best paid. There were other soldiers, though. An auxiliary was a soldier who was not a Roman citizen. He was paid a third as much as a legionary. Auxiliaries guarded forts and frontiers, but also fought in battles, often in the front lines where it was the most dangerous. Some soldiers had special skills. They shot bows and arrows from stones from slingshots, or could swim rivers to surprise an enemy like modern commandos. Artillery soldiers fired giant catapults called onagers in Latin, machines that fired rocks or balls of burning tar. The Romans used big wind-up crossbows called ballistas, too. Usually Romans liked to fight on foot. They used cavalry to chase the fleeing enemy. In battle, the cavalry often lined up with either side of the infantry. A Roman soldier wore armor made from strips of iron and leather, lorica segmentata. On his head was a metal helmet, gallia. He carried a rectangular shield, curved so it could touch his body. The shield was made of wood and leather. The Romans' main weapons were a short sword for stabbing and a long spear or javelin, pilum, for throwing. The javelin had a sharp iron point and a thin, bendy shaft. When it hit an enemy's shield, the point stuck in, but the shaft bent. This made it difficult to pull out. The long spear shaft got in the way, so the enemy soldier had to throw away his shield. Roman soldiers kept fit by running, marching, and practice fighting. They could march 20 miles a day wearing armor. They could swim or cross rivers in boats, build bridges, and smash their way into forts. Each man carried his weapons and shield, some food and camping equipment, such as spare clothes, cooking pot, and an axe or spade. Roman soldiers almost always obeyed orders. They usually fought in lines, marching forward with their shields facing the enemy. If they were being fired from above with arrows or rocks, the men would lift their shield over their heads for protection. They looked like a tortoise, so they called this formation the testudo, Latin for tortoise. The Roman army's biggest contribution was the amount of resources and goods brought in from other countries that they conquered. They also made roads, which made transporting resources very easy. These roads were very stable and they still exist today. The Romans made many contributions to society that we still use today, but their power wasn't the greatest. They did eventually fall, and now Rome is pretty much ruins, but most of it still stands today, and you can go visit it in Italy.